Okay, so today we're going to be looking at AI safety
Mm-hmm.
and specifically a new approach
Okay.
that aims to make large language models
Right. Right.
much safer.
Mm-hmm.
So, those things that power chatbots and even help write software these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Those things are getting
Right.
more and more powerful.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's what's got everyone
Yeah.
a little bit concerned.
Yeah, for sure. Like
Yeah,
as they become more and more intertwined with our lives,
exactly.
um, making sure that they're used safely is going to be absolutely crucial.
Absolutely. So you sent over some research on this,
I did.
a paper called
Yeah.
GuardReasoner towards reasoning-based LLM safeguards.
Hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to lie, it's a little
It's a little dense.
it's a little hard to parse.
It is.
Yeah.
But the idea is actually pretty simple at its heart.
Okay.
It's like, can we teach AI to police other AI?
Interesting.
Can we give these guard models the ability to reason so that they can protect us from potential harms better?
So instead of just having like a set of rules,
Right.
it can actually
Exactly.
Think
Think through a situation
Yeah.
and be like, okay, is this risky or not?
That's really interesting. So what led these researchers down this path?
So, the researchers, in this case, Yulu and their team, they recognize that the current methods we have of safeguarding these LLMs
Mhm.
just aren't really cutting it.
Right.
Like a lot of times they lack the nuance to catch more subtle harms.
Oh, interesting.
They just give you a yes or no answer
Got it.
without actually explaining why.
Right. So it's like,
Exactly.
is this bad? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Like why though?
And
Yeah.
and then imagine like a new type of harmful content emerges online.
Right. Because the internet is
It's constantly changing.
always
Constantly evolving.
evolving.
Yeah.
So I imagine those systems would really struggle with that.
Absolutely. So that's a major hurdle for AI safety. Yeah. So what GuardReasoner is trying to do is address these limitations head on.
Okay. So how does it actually work?
Right.
Do we give the AI like a little detective hat and like a magnifying glass?
Not quite that visual, but I like the analogy.
Okay.
So the researchers actually employed a multi-step approach here.
Okay.
So first they used GPT-4o,
Uh-huh.
which is a very advanced LLM,
Okay.
to generate this massive data set
Got it.
of over 127,000 examples.
Wow.
And each example included detailed reasoning steps.
Interesting.
So it's kind of like if you imagine a teacher showing a student how to solve a problem
Right.
and walking them through each step of the process.
Yeah.
That's kind of what's happening here.
So they're not just showing them what's right and wrong. They're showing them how to
Exactly.
think about it.
They're trying to teach these guard models
Yep.
how to think critically,
Yes.
not just giving them a list of do's and don'ts.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that was the first step. And then the next step was to actually use this data to train the AI guard models.
Interesting.
And they worked with different sized models because
Okay.
generally, larger models have more processing power.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the bigger the brain, the better.
Yeah, in many cases.
Yeah. So they have these guard models and they're giving them the tools to reason.
Right.
But how do they make sure they're actually like learning and
Okay.
becoming effective at spotting harmful content?
That's where it's really interesting.
Okay.
They used a two-pronged approach.
Okay.
The first prong was something they called reasoning supervised fine-tuning, or RSFT for short.
Catchy?
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially this is where they use that synthesized data
Right.
to try and unlock the model's basic reasoning skills.
Okay.
So it's like laying the foundation for logical thinking.
Got it. So that's the first part.
Yep.
What's the second?
The second part, they called it hard sample direct preference optimization, or HSDPO.
These names are wild.
I know, right? Okay. But basically what they did here is they focused on the cases where the model initially struggled to
Okay.
make the right call.
So like if it was getting it wrong?
Exactly. Like imagine like a coach reviewing game footage
Uh-huh.
and pointing out all the missed opportunities or the mistakes.
Right.
That's kind of what HSDPO does.
Got it.
It helps the AI learn from its mistakes and get better at recognizing those tricky situations.
So like trial by fire almost.
In a way, yeah.
Okay.
It's really putting it through its paces, making it work for it.
So it's like AI boot camp.
Yeah, you could say that.
Awesome. So what kind of results did they actually see after all this?
Yeah.
Did it work?
They put GuardReasoner through a pretty comprehensive testing process.
Okay.
They tested it across 13 different benchmarks,
Wow.
covering 3 core guardrail tasks.
Okay.
So those were identifying harmful prompts,
Mm.
flagging any harmful responses generated by the LLM,
hmm
and detecting when an LLM refuses to answer a question.
Interesting. So they really put it through its paces.
They did.
Yeah. And how did it actually stack up against the existing safety methods?
Yeah.
Was it like a small improvement or was it
Oh.
a big jump?
Well, it was a pretty significant leap forward.
Really?
Yeah, it consistently outperformed other open source models.
Wow.
And it even beat some of the leading commercially available Guard APIs.
That's incredible,
What is that?
especially for an open source model to be beating commercial ones.
Yeah, it really suggests that incorporating this reasoning element into safety mechanisms
Yeah.
really does make a difference.
So what were like some of the standout results that really impressed you?
One of the most striking things was how well it handled those tricky prompts.
Okay.
The ones designed to slip past safeguards.
Right, like trying to trick it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It consistently identified these adversarial prompts,
Uh-huh.
and it actually outperformed other models by quite a large margin.
Wow. So that's
So that robustness
really important.
is really crucial.
Yeah, it's like in the real world. Someone might be.
You're going to have malicious actors
That's true.
trying to exploit weaknesses in the system.
Exactly. It's like having a security guard that's not easily fooled
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
by disguises or clever tricks or whatever.
That's a great analogy.
Okay, so what else?
Another really interesting finding was that even the smaller GuardReasoner model
Okay.
often outperformed larger, more established models.
Oh, wow. So it's not just about
Yeah.
bigger
It is. It's not just about throwing more processing power at the problem.
Right.
It's about being smart and strategic about how you approach AI safety.
Yeah, and that's super important because it means that, it's not
Mm.
only accessible to these huge
Right.
companies with tons of resources.
It makes it much more accessible.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so the paper also mentions this idea of explainability.
Yes.
What does that mean in this context?
So this is actually one of the things that excites me most about GuardReasoner.
Okay.
Unlike a lot of those black box models
Yep.
that just give you a verdict without any insights,
Right.
GuardReasoner actually lays out its reasoning process.
Interesting.
It kind of shows its work,
Oh, I like that.
so to speak,
Okay.
which allows us to understand why it flagged something as potentially harmful.
So you can see, like, its thought process.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that transparency is
Yeah.
absolutely crucial for building trust in these systems.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because if we're going to rely on these things to
Right.
keep us safe,
Especially when it comes to safety.
we need to,
We need to know why it's making the decisions it's making.
it can't just be like a mysterious oracle.
Exactly.
That's just like
Yeah.
saying yes or no.
We need to be able to scrutinize that decision-making process.
Right, and like see if there's any
Exactly.
bias or anything in there.
And if we can understand the reasoning behind it,
Yeah.
then we can identify any potential biases or
Mhm.
flaws in its logic, and then we can go back and refine it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it feels like that level of transparency is really essential
Absolutely.
for like the responsible development of all this.
I completely agree.
Yeah, if we're going to actually use these things, we can't treat them like a magic box
Right.
that we don't understand.
It's about building a partnership
Yeah.
between humans and AI where we understand each other's strengths and limitations.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about the technical stuff,
Yeah,
but obviously this research raises some bigger questions too
of course.
about, the future of AI and its place in society.
Absolutely. These ethical implications are something we need to be thinking about constantly.
Right, because it feels like this is a really pivotal moment where we're
It is.
grappling with how to develop this powerful technology
Yeah.
responsibly and ethically.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, as these AI systems get more sophisticated
Wonderful.
and more integrated into our lives,
Yeah.
the stakes just get higher and higher.
You're absolutely right.
And I think, like, a lot of people are understandably concerned
Yeah.
about whether the AI can ever be truly safe.
Sure.
Because it feels like all we hear about these days is AI systems making mistakes
Mm-hmm.
or being biased
Yeah.
or even being used for like malicious purposes.
Right. And those are valid concerns.
Yeah.
And it's important to acknowledge those risks
Yeah.
alongside the potential benefits.
Right. So it's not all good or all bad.
It's not a simple yes or no question.
Right.
It's a very nuanced issue.
So what are some of the things that we need to be keeping in mind when we talk about this?
Well, I think one really crucial thing is that AI safety isn't just about preventing harm.
Okay.
It's also about ensuring that these systems are used for good,
So we want them to be aligned
with human values.
yeah, human values and actually help us
Contribute to a better
build
future.
the better future.
Yeah,
Not just like
right.
prevent the bad stuff.
Exactly.
So it's about
It's not just about putting up guardrails. It's
Yeah.
about actively shaping its development. Right.
and guiding it in a positive direction.
Exactly.
So I guess we need to be really proactive now
You do.
in terms of shaping the future of all this.
We can't just sit back and wait and see what happens.
Yeah, and just react to whatever comes out.
We need to be thoughtful,
Yeah.
intentional in our approach.
Yeah. And think about all the different ways that this could potentially
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, one of the other things that I think is really fascinating about GuardReasoner
Yeah.
is its potential to handle these new and evolving forms of harmful content.
Right. Because that's something that traditional safety mechanisms really struggled with.
Exactly. They often rely on these predefined categories of harm.
Right. So it's like
And you can kind of think of it like a blacklist
a blacklist.
of
Yeah.
bad words and phrases.
Right. So if something new comes up online,
Then the model's blind to it,
It doesn't
until
bother.
it's updated.
know how to deal with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a big vulnerability.
It's a big
Oh,
vulnerability.
yeah, big time. But GuardReasoner, because it focuses on the underlying reasoning
Okay.
behind why something is harmful,
Right.
it has the potential to flag problematic content, even if it's never seen anything like it before.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's less about matching patterns
Right.
and more about understanding the intent and potential impact.
So it's like
Yeah.
we're teaching it to be like a digital detective almost.
That's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
It's analyzing the evidence, figuring out the motives.
Yeah. Instead of just having like a list of
Exactly.
bad guys to look out for.
Yeah, it's thinking critically about the situation.
That's really cool.
And that ability to generalize, to adapt, is a huge step forward for AI safety.
Yeah, because
The internet,
the online world is constantly evolving.
it's not going to
Oh,
stop
yeah.
changing anytime soon.
We need safety mechanisms that can keep pace
Exactly.
with that evolution.
So this is making me feel pretty hopeful
Mm.
about the future of AI.
Like, it sounds like we're getting to a point where it can be really powerful,
Yeah.
but also safer.
I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yeah,
There's still work to be done for sure.
of course.
But research like this shows
Yeah.
the progress that's being made.
Yeah, and it's not just about the tech advancements either, right?
Right. It's about having these conversations,
Exactly.
considering the ethical implications and working together
Yeah, feels like
to make sure AI is used for good.
a really big collaborative effort.
It is.
You know, the researchers, policymakers.
Absolutely. Everyone has a role to play
Yeah.
in shaping this future.
All of us who use this technology.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a really fascinating deep dive
It has.
into the world of AI safety and GuardReasoner.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground,
We really have.
from the technical details to the
Mhm.
broader philosophical questions.
Yeah, and I feel like I have a much better understanding of all of it now.
Me too.
So as we wrap up, is there like one key takeaway that you really want our listeners to remember?
I think the biggest takeaway is that AI safety isn't a destination, it's a journey.
Okay.
It's an ongoing process
Yeah.
that requires constant learning, adaptation,
Yeah,
and
it's
collaboration.
Always evolving.
Exactly.
Yeah.
To make sure that AI remains a force for good in our world.
That's a great point. Well, we'll definitely continue to keep a close eye
Yes,
on all the latest developments in AI safety.
absolutely.
So be sure to tune in
Yeah.
for more deep dives
And more to come.
into this really important and fascinating field.
Until next time,
And remember, everyone,
keep exploring
the future of AI is in our hands.
and keep questioning.
Thanks for listening.